We're back with Maurice Stein. Maurice, you've got a lot of history in this business. You were one of the many makeup artists on Planet of the Apes. I mean, that's historic.
Yeah.
You know, you worked with Johnny Chambers on Planet of the Apes. You did just so many films. Heart Bleeps. Didn't you do Heart
Yeah.
Bleeps? You did Heart Bleeps, too.
Was that it?
Yeah.
You know, I forgot.
The gelatin makeups that were done. You and Stan Winston, I think, worked together on that, didn't you?
Poor Stan.
Yeah. Yeah, we've just lost.
I have to tell
Stan.
you a cute story about Stan.
Okay.
People would love to hear this. When Stan was an apprentice for a man whose picture you have over there, Stan came over to my home one time to pick something up for the head of Disney Studios. And
Bob Schiffer.
Bob Schiffer, right. And he came to the front door. I opened the door, and Stan, and I have one of those homes that has a double door.
Right.
You know, a nice size house with a double door. And Stan stood in the doorway, and he looked at the double door, and he looked at my house, and he goes, "Someday I want to have a house like this." Okay, flash 25 years later.
Yeah, yes.
We're at the Academy Award dinner or something where we're both sitting at a table in black tie. It's some affair.
Tuxedos.
And we're in tuxedos. He's sitting at a table next to me, and I haven't seen Stan in maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And we're sitting at tables adjacent to each other. So we see each other, and we get up, and we give each other a big hug and a kiss and everything. And he asked me how everything is, and I said, "Stan, you're a shit." And he says, "What?" I said, "Stan, do you remember a few years ago when you came to my house and you stood there and you looked at my house through the front doors and you said that you wished someday you could have a house?" He said, yeah, I remember that." I said, "Stan, your garage is bigger than my whole house now." Because he had. If anybody watching doesn't know, Stan passed away just recently.
Yeah. We did a memorial for him.
He had a garage that encompassed all of his cars and his motorcycles and his toys. That was very large, and he had a big, beautiful home.
He was a great guy.
He was a lot of fun.
I watched him do a makeup one time at ABC because I was the golden boy, so to speak, at ABC.
Rudy's boy.
Rudy's boy. Rudy put me on everything, and I got a call one day from Rudy. He says, "Joe," he says, you want to do prosthetics. He says, "I want you to watch this guy. This guy's going to come in. He's going to do an abominable snowman, right?" I said, "Okay." So I went, and he brought me down there, and he introduced me to Stan Winston, right? And he says, "Now you go sit in the corner over there." Right? So I sat, and you watch everything he does because we may need to do this someday, right? So I sat in the corner. And Stan was such a great guy, and he after Rudy walked out of the room, he says, "Get over here." He says, "You're not going to sit in the corner." He says, "Come on over here." He says, "Let me show you what I'm working with here." So he showed me. He was working with acrylic paints. Now, this was before Pax Paint, right? Before Pax Paint. So he was already experimenting with working.
In the 80s?
Oh, no, it was like the early 1970s. It had to be like 72, 71. I'm sure that this is before Pax Paint. Well, we're going to be talking to Dick Smith soon on the show. And so Dick will let us know if that was before Pax Paint or not. But anyway, make a long story short, he showed me all these acrylic paints, and he was mixing them with this liquid medium he had. It was called matte medium. And he poured the matte medium down on the palette. Then he took a little bit of each one of these tubes, and he'd squeeze a little, dot of each one of the colors onto all these little areas of matte medium, and he'd mix them around. And I said, "Well, what is that?" He says, "Oh, that's an acrylic medium." He says, "But when it dries like a sealer, and it dries matte." And so he's showing me how to apply it and all this and that. And that was the very beginning of my advanced prosthetic makeup application instruction, was from Stan Winston. And it was using the beginnings. He was like pioneering those products, that we are now using today. And instead of using matte medium, today we use Prosate. And we mix the color into the Prosate. But that was a great experience. And, obviously he wasn't, Matt, he wasn't Stan Winston at the time,
No.
And I wasn't Joe Blasco at the time.
That was 35 years ago.
Yeah, 35 years ago. It's a long time ago. So we were just, both of us were on our way up. But he was a real hell of a nice guy, great guy, and he was very, very talented. And he went on then after that. I think the first thing he did was a story of Miss Jane Pittman. I think he worked with Rick Baker.
Yeah, that's the thing that started
really
Stein
just
on his way
shot
up in
him.
his career.
Yeah, absolutely did. But let's talk about you. You're a young man at home. Your father is a makeup artist, and obviously this had to have had some kind of influence on you. What was it that your father did in makeup that really made you say to yourself, I think I want to do this too?
I probably saw the biblical makeups that he was doing and was impressed. He was a Shriner and a Mason.
Right.
And I went with him a few times and watched some of the things he was doing with all the hair work.
Oh, yeah.
And I was also a hairdresser.
Yes. I didn't know that. You were?
Yeah. I've been a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser before.
Yeah.
And that's another story, because...
That'll be another interview.
No, that was funny. My first day in the business was the funniest story.
Oh, you got to tell us. But let's get back to first your father.
Well, because I was proficient with hair, when I saw him working with beards and mustaches and everything, I wanted to do that, and to be able to do that and have it be done for posterity.
Yes.
And to be able to do a beard.
Yes.
And know that somebody was going to take a picture of it, or a moving picture, and it would be there for many, many more years.
Yes. Yes.
That's what interested me
Yes.
in being able to start to do something like that. And that's really, in my mind, how I started.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
I have to tell you that I finally was offered a job at Columbia Studios by a man that you and I know,
Benny Lane,
who said, "Yeah, kid, we'd like to hire you." He said, "Well, I can't work full time because I have my own business. I had a salon, and I'm going to make this story very short."
What year was this?
1961.
Oh, wow!
A couple of years ago. I said, "I can only work on Mondays and maybe sometimes Tuesdays." "What do you mean you're telling me when?" I said, "Look, I have a job, I have a family. I have a business, I have a family. If you need me, I'm available on Monday, Tuesday, and maybe some Sundays."
Right.
I didn't want to give up every Sunday. I said, "Okay, I'll keep it in mind." And in those days, you had to be in the union, but if the union members were all busy working, they would scrounge for just about anybody.
Right.
So all of a sudden, one day, I get a call on a Sunday night. Report at 5:48 in the morning, Columbia Studios. Well, in those days, it was all very proper. You dressed very professional. So I went to work in a pair of black loafers, a pair of black polyester pants, not wool, a short sleeve white shirt with a black thin tie, a black alpaca. If you don't know what alpaca is, it's a fancy sweater that's very thin. And I showed up at 5:30 instead of 5:48, and I went in to where I was supposed to go, gave them my name. The guy looked on the clipboard, saw my name. He says, "Yeah, go over there and get on the bus." And I'm thinking, this is cool. They take me on a bus to drive me to one of the stages. So I go, and my first day, and they said, "Don't bring anything, we'll furnish everything." So I go and I get on the bus, and I look around. Everybody's getting on the bus, and the first thing they do is go to sleep. So I just sit down, and I'm like this. Bus is full. They read off, make sure everybody's on there, and the bus takes off, and we drive through the Columbia Studios, and we go out down Goward. I'm thinking, oh, they must be going around the other. I don't know. The next thing I know, we're driving away from the studio. Hey, I'm getting paid. It's my first day in the movies. We're driving 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Everybody's sleeping, snoring, whatever. 45 minutes later, I wake up, and it's pitch black. The door opens, everybody gets off. I step off in my black leather shoes, and I step off into about 4 inches of desert dust.
Oh,
we're out in Gorman, where I go motorcycle riding with my kids.
Right.
And it's freezing, even though it's the summer. And I go where they tell me, to the tent. They read off my name. "Yeah, go over there." I go over there, and they hand me this thing called pancake.
Max Factor pancake.
Okay. Well,
and by the way, Gorman, this is worldwide.
Yeah.
This isn't just national.
Gorman is desert.
Yeah, it's
It's where I go motorcycle riding.
And
dirt,
it's
dirt bike.
freezing.
Yes.
It is freezing.
They hand me this Max Factor pancake and a sponge
sea
in this
sponge.
hand, and the water's right there. And they said, go make those guys up. And I'm thinking, I'm a hairdresser. What am I doing? Now, understand that in the 60s, only men did makeup and women did the hair.
That's right.
I didn't know that. So I don't know what this is and this is because I ain't never done this before. So luckily there was like 8 guys lined up here on these little pedestals that turned around, and there's 8 makeup artists lined up with these things going like this and going like this on the front of the guys in the back. So I'm looking, and I got a bit of a brain up here, so I tell the guy, I'm going to do your back first, turn around.
Yeah.
So he don't know how stupid I am. So now I'm going like this. The guy's here.
So you're doing body makeup.
I'm going like this. I'm not even looking at the guy. I'm looking at what the guy next to me is doing, and I'm going like this and doing exactly what that was.
That's
my
great.
first day in the business.
Oh my God.
Had
That's
no idea
terrific.
what the
What
hell.
was it? Can you remember the name of the
You know,
film?
I don't remember. It was a shoot 'em up, bang bang
Right,
Western
right.
movie
Right,
where
right.
I was making up Indians. Of course, they never hired Indians in those days.
Right.
They hire guys from college
Right.
that are as fair-skinned as
Yeah,
can
right,
be,
right.
and we had to make them look dark.
Oh my God! Isn't
But
that
it
amazing?
was a real experience. And then they wanted me to come back the next day because I did such a good job. And
That'll teach you.
I said,
Oh, what
I
a sad
can't-
commentary that is on makeup of the day. Guy, you didn't even know what you were doing, and they
I
brought
had
you back.
no idea, and they wanted
isn't
me
that
to come
that's
back the next
terrific.
day.
We've both worked with people like that, haven't we? Years
Oh,
later,
God.
who would come in with a pancake and a box of Kleenex, and just kind of phony baloney their way through it. But it's good that because I started that way too.
Yeah.
And
A lot of us did.
Oh yeah, but that's how it is, and it's all from experience. So now, your father, was he supportive when obviously
He was very proud of me. He really was.
Yeah.
And
Did he ever give you a test and fail you?
nope, he never did. I actually went down and helped him, which he was surprised that I was as proficient as I
Right,
was.
right.
I was very lucky. Once I started doing that, that's when they started taking some of the youngsters
Yeah.
and training us because they saw that the industry was exploding.
Yes.
And they needed more proficient makeup
Right,
artists
right.
that knew more than how to do this.
What about you? Weren't part of the apprenticeship program?
No, I wasn't an apprentice. What they had is a program where they were going to start training some of the, I don't even remember what they called us, but they took 31 of us, and some of the top makeup artists in different areas. A man by the name of Harry Merritt.
Oh,
who was-
yeah.
He was Doris Day's makeup
Yeah,
artist.
really terrific makeup
He was
artist.
also the head of CBS makeup department. Perce Westmore, who was one of the
Warner
founders of the
Brothers.
Westmore family. There were some wonderful teachers, and they started having classes for us.
How amazing was
And
that?
I
to
remember-
be taught by Perce Westmore
Yeah,
and
well,
Harry Merritt.
And I
That's
remember being
amazing.
locked.
Oh.
They literally Perce Westmore
Wow.
almost locked me, sequestered me for 3 months. I got paid once I committed to doing this full time.
Right.
I got paid to be locked up every day for 10 hours a day at the upstairs above the Columbia Studios makeup department. I went up there every
Little lab,
day
that little lab.
and did hair work.
Oh, wow.
I blended and hackled and crimped hair for 3 months because they found out I was a hairdresser and I knew how to do this.
Right.
So I got paid to learn.
That's terrific.
I mean, they don't do that. The studios don't do that
Are you
today.
Are you still laying hair? Are you still?
Yeah,
doing-
I just did a class for, I just did a free class for a lot of union members because there's still a lot of them that
Right.
don't know how to do a lot
Oh,
of the
yeah, I
little
know that.
nuances.
Does Cinema Secrets sell raw hair, real hair?
We have every kind and every color of raw hair and crimped hair. I also have probably the most advanced crimper in the world in my facility that I spent a fortune designing and building.
Oh, you had this made. Do
I
you
had
remember
it made.
the old bow tie crimpers that we used to use?
Very similar to what I have,
Right.
but what I did is I had a big motor built onto it.
Right.
If anybody's ever been around a sewing machine with those foot pedals,
Right.
well, this has a foot pedal on it so that you can control the speed of this thing.
Wow.
And
Terrific.
I had a makeup artist in the other day who's coming by to use it, I think this Friday.
Can we send hair over there to be?
Oh, yeah.
And if we buy hair from you, you can
Yeah,
crimp it.
you can-
So if you need hair, for anything that you're working on, you can get it from Cinema Secrets, and they will actually crimp it for you as well.
Or you can buy hair already crimped.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can-
Very good.
either way.
Now, do you crimp it with different types of wave?
No,
or is
I
they all-
only have one
Like a little
set.
quarter-inch type,
Yeah,
the
it
custom.
only has
yeah.
one set of rollers on
I
it.
see, I see.
But it's the best. It's the best thickness of crimping
Right,
that you
for
can
that.
get, so
Right.
it works fine.
Right, exactly.
If you want to get it crimped even tighter, you go at a slower pace. If you want it at a wider, then you go faster.
I see.
So that's how you can
So they
control
heat,
it.
these heat,
Well,
right?
the combination of the heat and the speed will
Yes.
control the
amount of wave.
groove that you get
Yes,
into it.
yes, and that gives you the wave. And you know what? You must then sell chopped hair. Do you have chopped hair?
No,
No.
no.
But you
It's
show makeup
too-
artists how to do
I
it.
show them how to do it. It became too labor intensive to
Right,
sell it.
right.
And to make it. So
Right.
what I'll do is
That's smart. You know, let me tell you, let me explain why I say that's smart. It's because if you can't do it, or if you're not going to do it, then you don't want to sell something that isn't quite right. And I've seen other
Oh,
chopped hair
yeah.
that's straight and it's just chopped up and there's no curve to it whatsoever. And when you do really good chopped hair, and Ben Nye taught me, he taught me
Yeah.
how to lay hair.
Ben Nye Sr.
Yeah, Senior, Ben Nye Senior. He and Ben Nye Jr. is a wonderful makeup artist as well, but Ben Nye Senior is the one who taught me. And you crimp it, and it's a C shape, and you cut it at the apex of the curve, and you end up not with little straight pieces of hair, but you end up with little C shapes.
Little Cs, right.
And then you bunch them all together, and then you
Into a ball.
and then you press and you pull the ball apart like that. And what you have is all the little ends sticking out. Put the adhesive on the skin, and you just press it like this right onto the skin. And you're gonna be seeing that because we have demonstrations. We're gonna have demonstrations of that right here on MUA TV.
I did that. Matter of fact, I did a class of that 15 years ago in Norway.
Wow.
And I should bring a picture one day.
No, I'd love to see it.
I was doing a class with about 30 girls because they didn't have any guys that were doing it. And we were doing a full week of special effect makeup there.
Right.
And the last day was all hair. And none of them wanted to do beards on their faces.
Right.
And the day before, they tell me this. And I said, tomorrow we're scheduled to do beards.
Right.
Well, you want to just skip tomorrow and go to the beach? They said, no. I said, then everybody come in either in a short skirt or wear shorts because we're going to do beards on your knees.
Exactly.
Well, that day they came in and I handed them all eyebrow pencils and they drew faces on their knees. And some of
That's
them drew
funny.
them upside down, and they
Oh.
all laid hair.
That's great.
Some of them did it upside down. Well, it was so cute that I got about a dozen of them together, had them sit on the floor, and I took pictures. And I found a picture last year.
Oh, that's great.
And I'll bring it to you,
Oh,
Joe.
please, please.
It's adorable.
That's great. You know, this reminds me, Ben Nye actually taught me how to do eyebrows that way and to lay hair as well.
on your
Yeah,
here.
right on the top part of my
I
leg
never
here.
let a student say that I don't have a model because
Exactly.
you're walking around with two models
That's
all
right.
the time,
Yeah,
right?
you
here.
just put your foot up on something
Yeah,
and
on
put
a
the
stool.
adhesive on your leg like that
And you lay
lay
hair.
the hair.
Lay eyebrows.
And eyebrows too. I mean, not lay eyebrows, but actually sketch
Yeah.
with a pencil.
What about the ones that complain that they
Isn't that
can't
great?
do? The ones that complain I can't draw lips. Right here, you can practice
Exactly.
all day on
Yeah,
lips.
Exactly. That's terrific. The makeup business, you and I have seen a lot of changes in the makeup business.
Every
and
day.
in products, lots of changes in products. Airbrush makeup. Are you doing much with airbrush? Do you have an
We-
airbrush product? What do you think
we-
of airbrush?
You see how quiet I got?
Yes.
Airbrush, to me, is a pain in the rear end.
I'm glad to hear somebody else say it.
But you know what? It has its place.
Oh, absolutely does.
Because people love it.
Yeah.
I find when I see, and a lot of you out there do make a lot of money with an airbrush, but you got to carry that big compressor with you, and when you're in the middle of doing an airbrush makeup and the gun jams on you,
Right.
or you clean it and the needle gets bent and now the
Right.
needle's no good. And you know what? I've never had that problem with my makeup case.
Right.
And maybe it's because I got all this white hair and this white beard. I'm old-fashioned. But you know, I work as well with an airbrush
Yeah.
as I do with a paintbrush.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can do everything with a paintbrush. Matter of fact, when I teach, I have a little 3-day class that I teach. I've started doing something that's a lot of fun. I can show a class how to do an eye that looks just like you've airbrushed it, but I can do it in 7 seconds and make it look better than you can with an airbrush in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I
believe
always
that.
win 11 cents because that's what I bet the students. And then I make them pay me over 12 payments.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to do that on the air.
Okay.
But you know what I really would like you to do?
Yes.
Is one day, aside from going and talking to the students, you know, I really would like you to come in and show that technique to the class.
All right.
Right?
It'll
And-
take 7 seconds.
And anything else that you would like to demonstrate. And I want the class to know what is available to them at Cinema Secrets. You know what? We're going to stop just for 1 second.
Okay.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Maurice Stein right after this.
Joe, you know what it is?
Welcome back. Joe Blasco here on MUA TV, and we have Mr. Maurice Stein. Let's talk about your career. I have right here to the left of me so many pictures of so many actors and actresses and makeup artists that you've worked with. And let's talk about this. Did you do the makeup for The Flying Nun?
Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest makeups I feel that I've ever done.
Why is that?
Well, think about it, Joe.
She was flying around. You couldn't.
Well, yeah, I couldn't fly as well as her.
Get down here.
Well, here's a young girl, not much older than you were when you were
Yeah, when I was
starting. But she had a typical face of a 18, 19-year-old girl,
Right.
which means it wasn't in perfect shape. But when you're working with a nun, in reality, they, especially in those days, weren't supposed to be wearing makeup.
Right, exactly.
So in essence, what I was doing is I was supposed to be putting makeup on somebody who wasn't supposed to wear makeup.
But they had to look great.
They had to look good. So I had to do a makeup that didn't look like makeup.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say I feel it was one of the hardest makeups I had to
Right,
do.
right.
Also, it was one of the more thankless ones because whenever we do, we're all creative people.
Right.
We want thank yous. We
Yeah.
want accolades.
Yes.
Well, I learned very young in my career, the best accolades any of you can ever have is when you finish your job and nobody says anything about it. Remember that. Because what it means is that the makeup you did completely fits the character. And if it fits the character, it doesn't stand out as
Right.
a bizarre.
Right. Doesn't call attention to itself.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I learned that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So making her up to look like she had no makeup
Right.
on
Right.
was
Great
a real
job.
challenge
Great
every
job.
day. And I did that for several years.
That was at Columbia Pictures,
Columbia
wasn't it?
Pictures,
Sure,
yes,
with Benny
yes.
Lane. Now were you department head on Funny Girl? Did you do?
I worked on Funny Girl on Barbra Streisand for 3 days.
You did. That's fantastic.
3 days.
What was it like? You know, we just interviewed David DeLeon.
Really?
Who's been working with Barbra Streisand.
I-
Tell us
I-
about Barbara then, because
She is no different today. She's brilliant.
Yes, she is, isn't she?
And I remember
What a talented girl.
I had just finished doing Planet of the Apes, the first Planet of the Apes. And we worked on all these apes and gorillas, and
Right.
I had orange and brown and
Right.
glue still under my nails and everything.
Do you know who made the makeup that you had under your nails?
You're going to tell me.
You're looking at him.
Really?
I was working with Ben Nye at his little shop on Santa Monica Boulevard. That's right.
That's right,
And he
you
was
did.
training me to make makeup. That's how I learned how to make makeup.
Oh, for God's
And
sakes.
that was one of my first jobs.
All that stuff.
To make the rubber grease
The
that we
rubber,
now call
that's the-
Appliance Foundation.
Appliance Foundation,
You know,
yeah.
for Planet of the original Planet of the Apes that Johnny
Yeah,
James
this was
did.
the first Planet of the Apes that we spent almost 6 months
Yeah,
prepping.
yeah.
I remember when John called me. He called me on a Saturday afternoon. He says, "You want to come over for lunch?" And I was always felt privileged when he said, "You want to come over for lunch?" And I'd come over there and have lunch. And he says, "Listen, we're working on this project with some gorillas and monkeys, and we're going to go to the zoo and look at them." And I'm going, Johnny's a little on the left-hand side of, but okay, I'll go, because he lived close to the zoo.
Right.
And anyway, that's how it all started.
That's terrific.
But
There were a lot of makeup artists on Planet of the Apes. There
well,
were like
originally
300.
there were 6 of us that worked together
Right.
to start. And then there were 8, and then each one of the 8 of us.
You did a principal character.
Yeah,
on
but
it.
each one of the 8 of us was responsible for training 6 more makeup artists.
How many finally ended up? I heard something like 300.
No, there was about 40,
40, yeah, that
something
sounds more like it,
regulars.
yeah.
And then there was a lot of them that came in,
Right,
other ones.
yeah.
And I originally did some of the principals, and then what happened was Johnny and then Dan Strepek, the
Yeah.
head of it, came to me and he said, "Look, I would like you to start doing more than just one principal and standing by all day.
Right.
We've got all these people to make up."
Right.
So I loved it, because it meant that I came in the morning, did a makeup, and didn't have to go stand on the set all day.
Right.
I did 3 to 4 makeups a day.
That's a lot. That is
That's
a
an
lot. They were
18
two and a half hours,
No,
or
3
3
and a
hours.
half.
Wow.
It actually ended up, when you consider your setup time,
Yes.
your makeup, and your cleanup time, it's
Yes.
about 4 hours.
Yes.
So when you figure you're doing 4 of them, that's 16 hours,
yeah, that's
without
amazing.
exaggeration.
That's
And
amazing.
in between that, you got to find time to eat,
Right.
go to the bathroom. And when we were working out at Fox Ranch out here,
Right.
had to find time to go home and go to bed. So it didn't leave you much time. Our call usually was at 4:48 in the morning. And I'd get off around 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. And when the movie was over, I bought my first house.
Ah, that's great. That's
Yep.
amazing. That's fantastic. Maurice has been around for a long time. He's done so many things, probably things that you're not even aware of. But
Things I forgot about.
yeah, and the thing is that I think the fact that you were there working on Planet of the Apes, you know, you're part of makeup history, Maurice. You know, there aren't that many makeup artists today, honestly, that can say that they were there at that time. You know, I think, you know, Johnny is gone now, and Ben is gone.
Yeah.
You know, Dan is still with us.
Dan's-
And I'd love to have Dan come in and
You should
to talk
ask
to Dan.
him
Yeah, I
if he
will. I'll be
will.
calling Dan Strepek, I think, during my next visit when we come back. But that's such an amazing story. And there are pictures here of Maurice with Johnny Chambers. And here is a great picture here of the Golden Girls.
The girls.
Tell us about this. Now, you worked Golden Girls for quite some time.
The whole.
Now, you went from Planet of the Apes, doing apes, to doing these beauties here.
Yeah, I started out with Planet of the Apes, ended up with 4 beautiful ladies.
Yeah.
It was quite a switch.
But that shows, you know, to be a makeup artist, you are able to do it all.
Well,
And that's what-
remember, in the days when I started, we had a test that was
Right.
a physical test that took 2 14-hour days. And we had to know how to do everything, because when the producer called you up and said, I have a project, you said, okay. You didn't say, well, if it's got hair work, you're going to have to hire a specialist.
Right.
If it has a ball cap, you got to hire a specialist.
Right.
I had a customer come in 2 days ago, and she wanted for Halloween, and she wanted to buy the materials to do a cauliflower ear. She had no idea what she needed. Well, I remember, it's been a long time since I did one,
Right.
but I remembered exactly what she needed for a cauliflower ear. Any of you that are listening, you need a little spirit gum to put on the ear. You need some, what we call mortician's wax to mold it. You need a little gelatin on your finger so that you can not have the wax stick to your finger. That way you can smooth it out. When you get it smooth out the way you want, you need to use a little sealer over that before you put the makeup on.
Right.
Very simple.
Right.
That's it.
So you put it all together for her?
Put it all together for her. It took less than, well, I spent probably 3 or 4 minutes explaining
Right,
it
right.
a couple of times to her.
Right. Did she take a picture of it and come back and show you what she did?
I told her the price of me teaching her how to do it was a picture. And we do get a lot of pictures
That's
after
great.
Halloween for that.
Maurice, tell you worked Golden Girls a
Right.
long time. Tell us some stories about Golden Girls. And that's a show, you know, when it comes on, and it plays on cable all the time,
Yeah.
on different channels. When it comes on, it's the kind of show that you absolutely can't switch away from. It's because you know that the writing is so fresh, and it's going to be, you know, it's really going to be funny. And they were just so terrific
Well,
on it. Tell us about
The
it.
beauty of working on Golden Girls is here you've got 4 ladies who are all in their own right very, very accomplished actresses.
Right.
They all had a beautiful part to play, and each of them were very protective of each other. So much so that when we started midway, they decided they each had their own dressing rooms and their own makeup areas, but they were doing their lines and it wasn't working. So we had a production meeting, and I said, I will get the ladies all in one room when I make them up so that they can do their finished rehearsal
Right.
while we're together. They said, it'll never work. I said, I'll get it to work. They literally built a makeup room that I designed with a door with a lock on the inside. And the ladies were in there, and they were the only one allowed in the room was the director, and that was it. The costume designer could come in. That way the makeup artist, the hairdressers were in
Right.
there, and we did all of our work. The girls were able to let their hair down
Right.
emotionally,
Literally, right.
emotionally and physically,
Right.
and work and relax if they wanted to, and run the lines if they wanted to.
Right.
We were able to work much easier on them.
So it was a makeup room / rehearsal hall.
Absolutely. And it was one big room
How
where
great.
everybody was treated equal.
Right.
There wasn't one person that was a star that was better than another one.
Right.
They all came to one room. When
Right.
they left the room, they each had their own dressing rooms
Yes.
that they could go to on
Yes.
their own. But they were all very protective of each other. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So-
How do they get along with one another? Because
They get
their
along-
chemistry on the air, on the show, is so remarkable. Was it that same way in real life?
That's what made the show so good.
Yeah.
What you saw on the air went on off the air.
Right.
And they were very good with the audiences. I've worked on other shows similar to that over the years, and I've visited other shows. This is a show where I saw a lot of other actors, a lot of other personalities come to visit the show.
Right.
I would look into the audience, and I would see Lucille Ball there. I saw Gene Kelly there.
Isn't that great?
And a lot of these people are people I worked with, so I knew them, so I would go and sit down with them and say, what are you doing here? They said, are you kidding? I want to see the show in person.
Right.
And they did.
But they were so respected. You know,
They-
Betty
they
White,
were.
you know.
Betty was one of the fastest minds I've ever met.
Yeah, she
One of the
was great.
fastest minds I've ever met
I
on
remember-
television.
We both, I think you probably did before me, but I worked Password. Remember Password?
Oh, sure.
With Alan Ludden.
The whole
which
world worked with
Yeah,
Password.
yeah, exactly.
Every makeup
We got
artist
started at ABC on Password and what was it? The dating game and the newlywed game.
And, what was the series? The Days of Our Lives?
Days of Our Lives.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
General Hospital.
General Hospital.
General
That's it,
Hospital.
General
Right,
Hospital.
right. Oh boy, those were the days. Now you worked Star Trek, the original Star Trek.
Yeah, I worked part of the off
With
and
Fred
on
Phillips? Did you work with Fred Phillips?
Fred Phillips on the first season, off and on.
How great that must have
Yeah.
been.
By then, I was day checking. I still was what they call a Group 2.
Right.
So I was really, at that time, I still had my salon business, and I was only allowed to work when all the Group 1,
Were already,
the journeymen
yeah,
were
working.
working.
Right.
And on shows like that, what were some of the, Mission Impossible was
Right.
going.
Johnny
So-
Chambers worked on that.
Johnny
And
did
Fred
that.
Phillips.
Yeah,
Fred Phillips.
They,
did.
they worked on that too.
Right.
So I would bounce between some of those wonderful classic shows.
Right.
And again, even though sometimes they would call me, I wasn't able to work because there was still some makeup artists available in the union.
Right.
But when all the makeup artists in the union, the journeymen,
Yes.
were
working,
then
then
I
they
could,
call you.
Then I could work.
Yeah, but what a great way to go, let me tell
Oh,
you.
it was wonderful.
How was it working with Fred Phillips? I hear so many great stories about him.
Fred was one of the kind of guys that loved, you know how you said Stan said, come over here, let me show
Right,
you.
right.
Fred was the kind of guy who always did that.
Yeah.
He knew, and I really feel this is what forced me, and I mean forced me, to be like that my whole life.
Yes.
I find that, especially at this time in my life, I want everybody that I run into to be able to take a little piece of me. And this is why I still teach a little bit. And then I'm going back to Dubai at the end of the year.
My God, you get around.
Well, I was supposed to go to...
Do you have your own jet?
Yeah. I could
Can I
have with
rent
all
it?
with all the times.
Do you fly?
No.
Are you a pilot?
God.
You know, I took up flying.
I remember you
You remember
did.
that?
Yeah.
I used to scare my employees to death, you know.
Really?
That's how I would test them. That's how I would. Maybe that's what I need to do now, you know. I should put my people in the airplane, and those who survive it, you know, they can continue working. But I tell you, oh, those were the days. That's really great. What are you doing in Dubai?
We have a distributor there that distributes through the Emirates, my cosmetic line. So I go over there and I teach, and then each time I go to one of these countries, I do some education there, and then I go to their leading burn center.
Yes.
And I donate my time. Like 4 months ago, I was in. I made a trip to Kansas City, and Kansas has a wonderful burn center, hospital, a teaching hospital there, and I did a seminar for the burn survivors there. Then I took a day off, drove out to see my grandson, who's going to the University of Missouri to study journalism.
That's wonderful.
So
you
it
know,
gave me a day off.
What I love about what you're doing is that you're really involved in giving back and helping people who really need the help in reality, not just film and television
Oh, no,
makeup.
it's-
You know, your work with cancer survivors and all that's.
Well, that's
burn
something, and
victims.
any of you out there that are in an area where you feel you don't get the kind of education that you need, if you put a group of people together, contact me at my own email.
What's your email address?
It's Maurice, Maurice, at cinemasecrets.com.
Okay, Maurice at cinemasecrets.com. And that's it, you know, if you would like Maurice to come to do a class, a special class, and you know, on what is known as medical makeup. Do you call it paramedic makeup? I don't really like that.
I've never liked paramedical
No,
makeup.
I don't either.
You know what I call it? I call it makeup for all types of skin discoloration.
There you go.
Because I don't cover scars. I don't
Right.
make a scar go away.
Right.
If you have a scar that is bright red or purple or
Right.
green,
That you can correct.
yeah, I can get rid of the discoloration associated
Right.
with the scar.
But not the three-dimensional.
No, no.
Yeah.
What it does is it helps to diminish that. See? but it doesn't get rid of it. It just diminishes it.
Yeah, sometimes people think that, when you do that kind of makeup, that they're going to lose that three-dimensional aspect of, of the problem. That's not so.
The makeup you use, whether it's your makeup or my makeup or Max Factor's makeup, the makeup is only as good as the education behind
Absolutely,
it.
that's right.
So
And the experience.
Well, the experience creates the education.
Well, we can go to the 5 and 10 cent store.
Yeah.
And buy,
And you and I have both done that when we're stuck.
Right, exactly. Let's go through more here. This is, and here's something great. Love Boat. You worked on Love Boat.
Yeah, I worked on a few of those. I was on the very first Love Boat cruise.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right. They actually, that show was the show where they experimented using my makeup products for the first time. It was Lee Wainer, I think. It was Lee Wainer. Was it Bob Osterman?
Bob Osterman.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I'm not sure who else was on the show, but obviously you were on the show.
Yes.
Bob Seidel.
Seidel was on it.
Right. And tell me, are there any good Love Boat stories you have that you can quote? When you get a group of guys together like that, you might not be able to quote it exactly verbatim.
I remember they hired me because one of the guest actresses that was going on the cruise wanted me to go. And I called my wife and I said, guess what? I'm going on the Love Boat cruise. Aren't we lucky? She says, I can't wait. And then I find out that
she's not going.
No, she ain't going. My roommate was not going to be my wife. It was going to be Bob Seidel.
Now, you guys worked together in business as well, right? Wasn't it Bob that did Lemon E?
Yeah, Lemon E cream. Yeah,
right. That was a terrific moisturizer back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it was called Lemon E, and I think it had vitamin E.
Vitamin E. Yeah, it was a vitamin E cream. It was popular for during its time.
Oh, yeah.
For about 10 years, I guess.
Right.
Matter of fact, I got my worst sunburn on that cruise because I was working with one actress, and the rest of the time I was on a Love Boat cruise and didn't have to do anything. So I think one day or the second day, I guess, I wasn't working. I was laying on my stomach on a lounge by the pool, getting paid, reading a book, and I got the worst sunburn behind my knees.
Oh, my God.
And couldn't walk.
That's where the Lemon E cream came
Nothing helped. Nothing helped.
Listen, I'm gonna give you a couple names, and you tell me something, any experience you have. Claude Thompson.
Oh, Claude.
Original head of makeup for NBC in Los Angeles.
One of the classier makeup artists.
Oh, yeah.
The only World War II fighter pilot that I know that was shot down twice and lived to tell.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Harry Blake. Isn't it amazing we're going from one NBC department head to another?
Yeah, to the next. Claude Thompson was actually the head of NBC in the 60s.
Right, and then Harry.
And then Harry Blake took over when Johnny Carson was there.
Yes.
And Harry Blake was not probably, but Harry Blake was my closest friend for many years, and I'm still upset with him for passing away too soon.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah, he was Dean Martin's makeup artist, and Margaret's, Gene Kelly's, and I can't tell you how many. We had more fun together. There was one time where he was Gene Kelly's makeup artist. I was Fred Astaire's makeup artist on many things. So the four of us spent many fun times together. And they had a birthday party for me one time at Dean Martin's place in Vegas when we were doing Dean Martin's roast.
Right.
And Fred Astaire used to always refer to me as the kid. And now they're having a 50th birthday party for me. So I go up to Fred and I say, Mr. Astaire, now that I'm 50, do you think maybe you could stop calling me the kid? He looked at me and he goes with both hands on my cheeks and goes, young man, you'll always be the kid to me.
Oh, that's great.
Which was really sweet.
Yeah, that's really something, I'll tell you.
But
I didn't know that you did Fred Astaire. I had no idea.
I did a lot of men in their later years.
Yes.
You know, you get known for doing something, and all of a
Right.
sudden you become a specialist.
Right.
And I started getting calls to do a lot of old timers.
Yes.
And that was one of the more depressing parts of my career. I was being interviewed in Florida one time, and they said, "Can you name a lot of the old male stars that you worked on?" And I thought about 10 of them that weren't alive any longer.
Yeah,
Going back
isn't that awful?
Well, I went back to Groucho Marx and Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, and because when Harry was gone, I worked with Gene Kelly
Right.
and Burl Ives, and I'm going, and they were all gone, and I'm going, this is depressing, but pretty soon I'll be doing them again when I'm with them.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you remember Rudy Horvatish at ABC?
Oh,
Now,
Rudy, yeah, Rudy was fun.
That's, Harry Blake actually started at ABC.
That's where he started. He was the assistant department head at ABC.
Right.
And Rudy always told him that when he retired, Harry would take over at ABC, but he got tired of waiting.
Right.
And when Claude decided to retire, Harry said, "I'm not waiting any longer. I'm going to NBC."
Right,
And he did.
there you go.
And he was there for
Yeah.
20 years.
20 years, yeah, that's a long time. Maurice, I want to thank you for coming in today. This is really very special. And aside from the look on your face when I walked into your office the other day, after 20 years.
Where's that punk that left his name?
You're the greatest. Again, we'll do this another time, all right? You promise to come back?
I'd love to. And
Okay.
anybody that wants to get a hold of me, my email is easy.
Oh, you have a personal email also.
It's just Maurice at Cinema Secrets.
Maurice at cinemasecrets.com. Maurice at cinemasecrets.com.
And I've got a website that has a lot of educational information on it. And what is that again, Tommy? And it's mauricestein.com.
mauricestein.com.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's got a lot of good educational information for
Excellent.
you, too.
You have to come on MUA TV and maybe do a demo for us. Something,
I'll do a couple of little unusual things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good.
Nothing too hard, because I'm starting to lose it.
Maybe, what we can do is we can talk about maybe techniques for the discolorations, skin discolorations. I think that would really be terrific.
I'll show you the way I do the little airbrush eye.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
We're talking
great.
about.
That'll be a real surprise for you guys out there. All right, so on behalf of all of my staff and my crew, and on behalf of the millions of people that are watching us out there around the world, well, it's not millions yet, but it's getting into the high thousands, and it's growing every day. On behalf of all of them, I want to thank you for coming in, and I want to thank you for having such a wonderful father who helped me out in those early days. All right.
Thank you for having me.
This is Joe Blasco with Maurice Stein for MUA TV. It's good.